34-year-old cashier, Angela Mantha, is suing her mother, cabinet maker Storm Linnell, for filing false charges with Child Protective Services. Storm says Angela's fiancé is physically abusive.
Judges, is case number 352 on the calendar in the matter of Mantha versus Linnell. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats, please.
Miss Mantha, this is your mom.
Yes.
And your complaint says that your mom filed false charges against you with Child Protective Services involving your daughter, who is how old?
6.
And you want to be compensated for your aggravation.
Yeah.
Your mother says she had legitimate concerns for your daughter's safety. Mm-hmm. And she had at some point been the caretaker for that child. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's why she called Child Protective Services to do an investigation. So I have to get some facts. Is this your only child?
No, I have a 9-month-old son also.
Who's the father of that child?
Jason.
This is Jason.
Yes.
Jason, you stand up there because I may have some questions for you. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Now, your daughter was born when you were 18.
Yes.
Where is her father?
He's incarcerated right now.
So that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
And when did your daughter go and live with your mother?
She was probably 14 or 15 months old. It was right after her first birthday.
What's her name?
Jasmine.
Why did Jasmine go and live with your mother?
At the time, I didn't have a stable place for her to stay. I was living with my boyfriend, who was an alcoholic, and he had friends in and out of the house all hours of the night. I didn't have my own job, so I couldn't take care of myself and support us on my own, and it wasn't a good place for my daughter to be.
Were you doing any drugs or alcohol?
I was drinking a lot.
Was the child removed from your custody by the state, or was this initially voluntary?
Voluntary.
Was the state ever involved in placement of your daughter with your mother? How long did Jasmine stay with your mother?
6 months.
And then the boyfriend went to jail? Or you left?
I just left. I moved out of there. I decided it was time for me to be a mother, and I moved back in with my mother and my daughter.
And how long did you stay?
6 or 7 months, maybe.
And
just long enough for me to get a job and get out on my own.
And your mother let you take your daughter?
Yes.
With no fight?
No fight.
So far, I got it. You were off track, came back home, you got on track, your mother was there for you. Mm-hmm. She was there for you to pick up the slack, taking on the responsibility of a toddler, took on you as a responsibility when you moved home. She saw that you had gotten it together, you moved out with your daughter, moved into your own place?
Yes. No
boyfriend?
At the time, no.
Then what happened?
I moved out for a while. I had actually moved in with a coworker of mine. At that time, that was probably the first time that my mother had called CPS on me.
Why do you think she did that?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I don't really know.
Who was this coworker? Male?
Yes.
Maybe she didn't approve.
She knows who he is.
Is he a good person?
Yes, he is.
And how long did you live with?
Actually, probably about a month and a half.
And then where did you go?
Back to my mom's.
Because that didn't work out?
Right.
Went back to your mom's, and how long did you stay with your mother?
After that, probably 4 or 5 months, maybe.
Then where did you go?
Then I got my own place again.
How long did you have your own place?
I stayed there for 9 months.
Then what happened?
I moved out, and I moved in with my Aunt Becky, actually. And I stayed with her for probably about a month. That's when I met him, and we found our own place.
How long did you know Jason before you moved in with him?
A year and a half, maybe 2 years. I worked with him also.
What kind of work do you do, Jason?
Right now, I drive a garbage truck.
You have children?
Yes.
How many?
3.
Including the 9-month-old?
Mm-hmm.
Where are your other 2 children?
One is living in Bangor with his mother, and the other is in Tennessee.
Were you married to either of those 2 ladies?
My second child, I was married to her.
How old are you?
27.
So you're 27. You have 3 children. 2 of them you don't see.
One of them I see every weekend. During the summer, I see him every other week.
So only one of them you don't see?
Yes.
You support the other 2 children?
I pay child support every week.
For both of them?
Yes.
Okay. You would acknowledge to me, would you not, that you have not had a stable life thus far, is that right?
That's correct.
And that if your mother had concerns about you, they would be legitimate concerns based upon your history, right?
Yeah, yes.
Why did you call Child Protective Services the last time, and when was it? if you'd like to tell me.
Mid-September of this year.
Tell me why.
Well, there's been an ongoing situation with Jasmine saying that Jason has been mean to her.
Has she been more specific?
Just that he's been physically mean to her twice.
Well, she didn't use the word physically.
No. He grabbed her by the back neck and ran her into the bedroom one time.
You mean like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And once he had smacked her on the back of the head like this. That's how she explained it.
Okay.
You know, I was worried about that, but I tried talking to Jasmine. I said, you could talk to Mama about this. Let Mama know what's going on. She says, I do, but Mama gets mad at me if I tell her Jason's mean to me. And I says, well, I'll talk to Mama. Well, I tried talking to Mama about things that have been going on. Mama don't want to listen to me.
You mean those two things? Was there anything else?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
yes,
I'd like to know what else.
Well, I was taking my, you know, I have my granddaughter a lot, sometimes up to 4 times a week over weekends. On several occasions during the last few months, when she was time for her to go home, Chang ran on to me, please, Mammy, I don't want to go, I don't want to stay. Her mother literally had to peel her off of me to keep her in her home, as she said she was afraid of Jason. And then on an occasion in August, Angela had gone out with a bunch of her girlfriends, and one of them happened to be my future daughter-in-law. And Sharon,
your
my
future
daughter, she is my daughter-in-law now, had come to me and told me that on that occasion, when they were getting ready to leave, Jasmine clung onto my daughter, holding on to her, saying, Mom, please don't leave me with Jason. And they literally peeled her off of Angela, left her with Jason, and went out drinking anyways. Now, this has been an ongoing situation since Angela's been 17. She had her baby when she was 17, Your Honor. She turned 18 a month later. That left me responsible for...
Oh, I understand. So that's the reason that you called Child Protective Services. So, let me hear you.
History.
Your Honor, I talk to my daughter a lot. We have a good relationship together. She has never told me anything like that. She has not said anything about Jason. She's always talked good about him. She's here right now. I would love to have you talk to her if you would do that.
Mm-hmm. I will.
I would like you to.
Sure.
When Child Protective Services came and did their investigation, did they give you any sort of a report afterwards?
Yep. I have a closing statement and I have the assessment. I also have a copy of a random drug test that they give Jason at his work, just because she says we have excessive drug and alcohol use in the home.
Okay, just hold on to those things. I'm going to go and speak to Jasmine. Why don't you all have a seat for a couple of minutes?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You leave with her, you stay someplace else for a month, then you come back to your mother, then you leave your mother, then you go back to your aunt. So this child at age 6 has absolutely zero stability. Fair statement?
No, Your Honor.
Of course it is.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Mantha says her mother, Storm Linnell, filed false charges with Child Protective Services. Storm says she was worried about her granddaughter.
Jasmine really didn't want to talk to me. She's a little upset. I think she's upset because, you know, she's in a strange place and she knows that this is all about her. She probably knows that there's been a lot of friction because of, she views it because of things that she says.
She loves my mother. She really does.
Oh, well, there's no question in my
really
mind she loves her mother. Okay, so let's talk about objectively what we have. First, let me see the closing statement from Child Protective Services.
His drug test is in there, too. I don't know if you want that, but...
Okay. Do you think that your mother maliciously called Child Protective Services?
Yes, I do.
Tell me why you believe that your mother maliciously called Child Protective Services.
Because during the last fight that we had when we was all at my Aunt Becky's house, she told me right then and there that she was going to do anything in her power to get Jasmine. What that means, I don't know.
Well, in what context did she say that to you?
Well, we were fighting.
What were you fighting about?
What happened is when I come in, I was on the road all day. I had a lot of doctor's appointments and stuff, and I had my son with me, who was 9 months old. And I brought him in to feed him and change him. And I don't smoke around my son, and when I walked in, everybody put out their cigarettes. Well, I guess a guy that was there, Kevin, still had a cigarette going. I did not see him with a cigarette in his hand. And then my mother lit up a cigarette. So I just started packing the stuff up, and I was just going to leave. I didn't want to start anything. And she just
This was at your aunt's house?
This is at my Aunt Becky's house, yes. And that's when she started in. She's like, well, I don't know why you didn't say anything to Kevin about him smoking. And I was like, I didn't see him with a cigarette. I really didn't. If I had seen him, I would have said something to him.
Go ahead.
And that's when it all started, and we exchanged some words back and forth. She's talking about how I'm not a very good mom, and this and that, and she looked at me, she's like, I will get Jasmine, I will do anything to get her.
Well, that wasn't the first time that your mother has called Child Protective Services.
No. I've had Child Protective Services call them like 3 times. 2 for a fact I know with my mother.
Any of them when you were living with Jasmine when she was a baby?
No. The first time is when I first moved back from Bingham. I think that my mother might have moved out and I was renting her place from her. Myself and my girlfriend Amanda and Jasmine were living there. That was the first time CPS was at my house. The second time is when I moved to Joe with my girlfriend Amanda and Jasmine. Mm-hmm. And that
lasted for a month before you moved out, if my memory is correct.
And he was only at my house once, and he left and he never come back. I don't know what happened to that.
I don't know either.
No.
I don't get the sense that your mother called maliciously.
No.
No. I mean, for the first 14 months, you were not living in a reasonable relationship because you were drinking. Father of the child was drinking.
No,
There isn't a question in my mind that during the initial period of her life, the child was neglected. Then she goes to stay with your mother. You come back and stay with your mother. Then you leave with her. Then you stay someplace else for a month, someplace else for 5 months. Then you come back to your mother. Then you leave your mother. Then you go back to your aunt. So this child at age 6 has absolutely zero stability. Fair statement?
No, Your Honor.
Of course it is. I mean, just look at it. I'm looking at it objectively. The child has had, in 6 years, no stability. She's had Joe, she's had Jason, she's had her father, she's had I don't know who else. She's had her mother, she's had her grandmother, she's had her aunt. At age 6, she's had no stability. So I'm telling you as an outsider that thus far as a mother, you have not been terrific.
That's fair.
Then you hook up with Jason, who is in his 20s, who already has had 2 major mistakes. One a marriage, one an out-of-wedlock child. And I don't know anything else about him. But I do know that there is cause for concern because your track record's not terrific.
To be honest, you know, I never said that I was a great mom when my daughter was a baby, because I wasn't. But for the past 3.5 years, I've provided a more than stable home. I've been working full-time, or, well, part-time. I have a beautiful home, transportation. She's in school, she's healthy. She's in soccer and Girl Scouts. I do a lot with the school for her. My whole life revolves around her now.
No, well, it doesn't revolve around her. It revolves around her and a 9-month-old.
Well,
and his child who's there all the time.
Exactly.
According to you.
But I treat all the children the same. I don't give anybody special attention. That's a problem?
Yeah. In your daughter's eyes, that's a problem. If you treat everybody the same. It just is. That doesn't mean she's right. She's 6 years old. But she had her grandmother, who was her focus. Mm-hmm. You've taken that away from her. Because according to what I read, she doesn't see her grandmother anymore.
She hasn't for 2 months.
According to this. So that's true. So she hasn't seen her grandmother in 2 months, so you've taken that piece of stability away from her. Now, I'm not saying that she was Mother of the Year, because according to what I read, you had some problems yourself. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Series of relationships that went nowhere?
No, ma'am.
Well, according to your daughter, that's true, that your husband was killed?
Yes, sir.
And that after your husband,
13.
you had a series of relationships?
I've had 2.
That were in some way abusive and or alcoholic?
That's why he's gone.
Well, it doesn't make any difference.
Yes,
it was
you're
there
right.
with your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
When she was growing up, so she was involved with it. So what I'm saying to you is you have to understand that nothing is perfect. People do make mistakes.
That's right.
What I'm suggesting to you is the only focus for me right now is the 6-year-old who has one constant that's no longer in her life, taken away abruptly. She has to share her mother with a sibling, which is very often traumatic for a young child, even a young child who hasn't had the kind of history that your daughter has had. And she also shares that child with a pseudo-stepchild, because you're not married to him. So that's not a stepchild, but it's somebody that comes over periodically. Plus you work part-time, so you got a full plate. He doesn't sound like a terrible guy, but a self-acknowledged bad temper, right? Yeah. And he says he has a bad temper when he's helping the children out with their schoolwork and they don't seem to get what he's telling them, so he has a tendency to yell. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I assume that your 9-month-old doesn't go to school.
Not yet.
So I assume that the child that you're referring to is Jasmine.
Mostly I was referring to my son.
Well, he's not with you Monday through Friday to help with his schoolwork.
Actually, Your
tried to
Honor,
help
sometimes he is.
Sometimes is not all the time. Jasmine lives there full time.
I was referring to my son. Jasmine, I tried.
It certainly doesn't say that here. So she's got a very full plate, your daughter. And I'm not going to get involved with whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea for you not to let her continue to see her grandmother. I don't have enough information. Off the top of my head, I would say it's a tragic mistake for her. This is the one constant that she's had in her life, because you've had several different men. You've had her father, you've had Joe, you've had Tom, you've had Jason, you've had whoever in your life. And one constant she has is your maternal family. And if you cut them off, I think that that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
But I see no malice in your mother's phone call. Go ahead.
May I say something? I haven't cut her off from my complete family. My grandmother had 14 children, and I'm very close with all of them.
Okay.
And if I could say one more thing else, my grandmother done this exact same thing to my mother and my Aunt Becky. And there was no reason then, and there's no reason now, is the way I look at it.
Well, as I said to you, I don't get the sense that there was a malicious intent on the part of your mother, and it's very possible that your daughter did say to her, I can't tell you, because then Mommy said, I can't see you anymore. That makes sense to me. That was in your mom's answer. I can't tell you what's going on because Mom says I can't see you anymore. And I can hear that conversation. You know, if you're going to talk to Grandma about what goes on in the house, I'm not going to let you see her anymore.
I would never say that.
It's sort of interesting for her to at least attribute that to the child, whether you said it or whether you didn't. It's not a good idea for you to inquire about what's going on in the house. That puts your granddaughter, if you do, in a very difficult situation. In any event, I assume that you will work out whether or not you see your granddaughter between the two of you. As I said, I think it's probably not in your daughter's best interest not to see her grandmother, but I see nothing malicious about the phone call to Child Protective Services.
She has been malicious as far as to the people in my community. I live in a small town. I grew up in that town, and that whole town thinks nothing but bad about me and Jason now. She's told people that Jason's molested Jasmine.
I have never, ever accused him of molestation.
That should be on,
I have
on
never.
that report.
They asked me if I thought that might be the case, and I said, I don't really know. That's something I can't say because that's nothing that was
she's a
brought
6-year-old
up.
child who has a yeast infection, according to the reports. And for somebody who may not be schooled, they may not know how you develop a yeast infection, but certainly sexually transmitted disease is one possibility.
Your Honor, my doctor told me that yeast infections are caused in little girls by sitting in a soapy bathtub.
That's possible.
It is very possible.
No, it's possible, but I will tell you now that for a 6-year-old to have a yeast infection who does not have a history of taking antibiotics, which sometimes causes that for a long period of time, might be problematic for a grandmother. She says she's never made those statements. I have nobody here to counter that, but I see nothing in the history of this case that suggests to me that she made any calls maliciously. So your case is dismissed.
Yeah, this is case number 343 on the calendar in the matter of Krill versus Krill. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Jennifer, this is your stepmom.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are no longer married to her father, is that right? You are
Yes,
now
ma'am.
divorced. How long were you married to Jennifer's father?
18 years.
Jennifer, you came back to live with your stepmom. You have a child?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is your child?
She's 3.
So you came back to live with your mom when you were 16?
Yes.
With the baby?
Yes.
Where had you been living?
In El Paso, Texas with my real mom.
And that didn't work out, so you came back to
Live with
your
her, correct.
stepmom. Your complaint is that your stepmother has a car that belongs to you.
Correct.
And she says she does not, it is her car. I gather there was a time when you were 16 or 17 that your stepmother gave you her car to drive, and you totaled it.
Right.
And then what did you do?
What do you mean?
Well, you got some money, according to your complaint. You asked your biological mother for some money.
Oh, yes.
And she sent you some money, and you put it in the bank.
Right.
And you and your stepmother went out shopping for a
Right.
car, according to you, purchased this car, which your
Right.
stepmother put in her name.
Right.
That's the car we're looking to retrieve.
Right.
So, when you went to buy the car, you were 17?
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of discussion did you have with your stepmother about the car?
We really didn't have a discussion. I mean, she told me that we were going to buy me a car because she didn't have any money to afford to replace the other one. And then she did the transaction. I handed her the $800, in front of the man that we bought it from, and then I walked away. She never consulted me about putting her name on the title. She just, I guess, put her name on it. So, I mean, I have the bill of sales. I have a bank statement from that day.
Okay, no, there's no question. The money came from your stepdaughter.
Yeah, but she's not telling the story right.
Okay, so I'm listening to you.
She never gave me the $800. She went and took care of that. Jennifer also took care of all the title work and registration, and she's the one that put my name on that title.
No, I did not.
I never went to the license bureau to do that. She took care of all of that.
Why would she put your name on the title? Maybe because she was a minor?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think she totaled my car in early May. The Neon was bought probably 3 weeks after that.
Ms. Krill, she has received a gift from her biological mother for the purpose of purchasing a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think this car belongs to you?
Because we discussed it. It was supposed to be, she's the one that took care of the paperwork. If she really believed that it was her car, why did she put my name on the title?
Now just a second, that's not my question. Why do you believe it's your car? Don't tell me what's going through Jennifer's mind.
I never said it belonged to me. I said it belonged to us.
Well,
and
then
it
how
was
do you
discussed
expect
that she was replacing the Cougar that she totaled.
Her mother didn't send her money to replace your car.
No, ma'am, she did not.
Right. Her mother sent her money to buy a car for herself so she would have a car. She's 17 years old. Sometimes teenagers have problems. But you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When your child is 15, 16, 17 years old and they have an accident with the car, it's just part of parenting. They don't replace it.
I didn't ask her to replace the car, though. The car was put in both of our names for it to be our car so we could share it.
You can't share an $800 car. And she's not living with you anymore. So what do you want to do?
We live a mile from each other.
You can't share the car. It's impossible. Who has the title?
I do.
Can I see
I
it,
have the
please?
receipt to the title.
You don't have the title. You have a receipt. I want to see the title.
Okay.
Okay. Have her sign it. Okay. Right over there, Ms. Krill. That's going to take care of the car. Sign it. Okay. Bird, would you give it over to the plaintiff, please? All right, that takes care of that. Now, I'm going to take care of all this property stuff. What kind of property do you claim that you have at your stepmother's house, and why did you leave it there?
Well, I have a couch that my aunt gave me. I have a bed that my grandmother gave me, a radio flyer, a radio tricycle. I have all my shoes.
That's for the baby?
Right. Those are her toys, and amongst several other toys that she has there. And
Well,
the reason why it
why didn't you take those things when you left?
Because I was sent to Texas. I mean, I couldn't pack everything.
What do you mean
on
you
a
were
plane.
sent to Texas? When were you sent to Texas?
I was sent there July 11th because they said that I couldn't live in their house anymore. So.
You mean your stepmom said you couldn't live there anymore?
Right. Well,
Why? What were you doing?
She told me that I had to go to Texas. I had to face my past and stand up to my real mother. I mean, I didn't understand why she was sending me. I still don't understand why she sent me.
She's going to tell me why she sent you. There had to be something that you're not understanding, but that I have a feeling I'm going to understand. Go ahead.
She was sent back to Texas at that time because I was on medical leave and because she was getting into some trouble that I couldn't handle. I told her to go back to Texas to deal with things that were going on, to step up because she needs to be a mother.
To her child?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a mother to my child. I think I am a very good mother to my child. I've never hurt her. I mean, I don't understand why she's saying that.
Well, let me ask you this question. You've never hurt her?
No.
Do you think that you surround her with the appropriate people all the time?
Yes, I do.
Just think about my question very carefully. Where's her father?
He is in Texas. He's no longer in my child's life, nor has he never been.
Does he pay support for her?
No, he doesn't.
Why not?
He just doesn't. He's in prison.
Well, that's a reason. That's a reason for him not to pay support is because he's in jail. What is he in jail for?
Statutory rape.
Of?
Me.
Of you. Is that one of the reasons you didn't get along with your biological mother?
Yes, it was.
Did they pursue that against him?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Okay. Your stepmother says that you were getting into some difficulty with your daughter, that she found her in a circumstance that she wasn't happy with. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't understand. I don't know what circumstance you'll be talking about because...
Well, maybe she'll tell me. Go ahead.
She was dating boys that had no business being around the grandbaby. I actually had to extract her from the home of one twice within a month's period.
What was wrong with them?
He beat on the baby, for one.
How do you know that?
He left marks on her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Yes, he was one of my boyfriends
She admitted that he hit her.
because she had an accident in her pants. I didn't agree with it. I didn't say, oh, well, that's okay.
So when I asked you whether your daughter was around inappropriate people, the answer was yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Jennifer Krill says her stepmother, Kim Krill, won't return her vehicle. Kim says Jennifer should think of it as compensation for wrecking her car.
Did you ask Jennifer about the marks?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She admitted that he hit her.
Is that right?
What happened was, from another instance, that when I was in Texas, yes, he was one of my boyfriends. I came to live with him. I mean, he was nice until, like, he told me to get out of his house. And then the reason why he hit her was because she had an accident in her pants. I didn't agree with it. I didn't say, oh, well, that's okay. I got my stuff, I packed my bags, and then I called my real mother in Texas, and that's when she came and got me.
Jennifer, so when I asked you whether your daughter was around inappropriate people, the answer was yes.
Oh, I didn't think that she was stating that. I thought, excuse me, she was stating of my stay right now. And how
I'm talking
staying
about
right now.
then. I want to know why you were sent back to Texas.
I was
The
on a-
stepmother is on...
In December,
No, in July.
she's been sent back twice.
Okay.
That's why I
Well,
was
anyway,
talking
that's when you were sent back the last time. It was in July.
Right.
And you didn't take all of your stuff because you thought you were coming back.
Right.
Do you have her couch?
Yeah.
You have her bed?
Yeah. I would like to say, though, that when she arrived back in Hobart, she called and said she was coming to get her stuff, and she did come and get a lot of stuff. It was her choice that she did not come back and get it. I never denied her that stuff.
Okay.
She didn't.
Do you
but-
want... It's going to be easy.
Okay.
What stuff do you want now?
Mainly, I want my car, and I do want my couch and my bed, but I don't have.
Well, listen, Jennifer, you can't have it both ways. If you want your couch and your bed and the baby's toys, make arrangements to pick that up in 5 days. Fine. It'll be put out. It'll be waiting for you. You'll get a storage space. Fine. But she's not going to act as a storage facility for you until you decide what you want to do. The car you now have. Do you understand?
Okay.
Car is yours.
Okay.
You have it. You want to forget about the rest of the stuff?
No.
Well, do you want it?
Yes, I do.
She's asking to take stuff that was the grandbaby's that I actually bought her, and the grandbaby still comes to my house.
Does?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're talking about the tricycle?
That was bought for her birthday and for Christmas.
Okay. I'm glad that she still comes to the house.
I adore my grandbaby.
How often does she come to the house?
I haven't really got to see her a lot lately, maybe once a week.
Where are you living now?
I live with my friends in Hobart, Indiana.
What friends?
Eric, Willie, and Jay.
You live in a house with 3 men?
Yes, I do.
What do they do for a living?
They put up billboards.
What do you do?
I stay home. I don't work right now.
What are you going to do with the couch and the bed?
I'm going to get a storage room until I can rent my own apartment to put it in.
You still are getting along reasonably well with your stepmother?
I would say so.
I like that. That's very smart. Your daughter needs that.
I know that. That's
A
why I
lot.
allow her to see her.
A lot. So I have a sense, and I'm going to ask her, she's not quite ready for the couch and the bed right now. Any chance of you holding on to it?
I told her before that she was more than welcome to keep her stuff there until she could find a room.
Fine. Then we have no problem with that. And we've resolved the car. Continue to be smart, Jennifer. Continue to let her be a part of that baby's life, because I have a sense that that is going to be one of the stable things in your daughter's life, at least for a while.
I understand that.
Okay, very good. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's not stepping up to her responsibilities and doing what she's supposed to do.
I would like to make amends with her.
Just to be a good mom to her daughter, that's all I want her to do.
If she would like to see me in her life as well as my granddaughter, I mean, I'm more than willing to do so.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Riley versus Lee. Step forward, please.
Retired bus driver Lynette Riley is suing her ex-daughter-in-law, medical language specialist Kelly Lee, for defaulting on a car loan. Kelly says she can't make payments because Lynette's son doesn't pay child support.
Mrs. Riley, the defendant is your former daughter-in-law.
Yes, she is.
And you have grandchildren?
Yes, I do.
How many of those grandchildren are the children of the defendant?
2.
Do you see them?
Yes, I see about 3 times a year now.
Okay, good. According to what I read, in 2000, in the year 2000, you co-signed a loan for a car at a time when your former daughter-in-law and your son were still living together. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And the car was used by your daughter-in-law. I assume it was in your name?
It was.
And I assume also that your husband used the car on occasion. Is
Yes,
that right?
he did.
But shortly after the car was purchased, they separated, and you took the car.
Yes.
Now, did your judgment of divorce provide that the car was your car and your responsibility?
It wasn't detailed in our divorce, but property in our names remained in our names.
Is that what the judgment of divorce said?
Yes.
Problem is that you stopped making the payments at some point. When did you stop making the car payments?
The car payments began to be too much for me. I wasn't receiving child support.
That's your defense.
Consistently.
That's your defense. My question was, when did you stop making car payments?
Off and on over the last 6 months, I continually tried to catch up, and I couldn't.
Do you have the date when she stopped making the car payments?
Actually, I don't know because the bank never let me know when she actually stopped paying. They had notified me that they were going to repossess the car in January of this year. Well, then they gave her an extension, and I found out later in April that they had repossessed it in March, which I hadn't even been notified that it had been repossessed. And she didn't let me notify it.
Why didn't you notify your mother-in-law that the car had been repossessed?
I'm sorry, I did notify her. I told her that I would have to send the car back. I talked to my ex-husband. He told me to call my mother-in-law, which I did. She said I asked her if she wanted to take the car. I had no choice. I needed to provide a home for my children. The car was too much.
When did you call her?
I believe it was January. And then I called the finance company and asked them to come and get the car when she told me that she had no use for it.
Just a second. Ms. Riley, I just want to know, did your daughter-in-law call you in January of this year and tell you that she was having difficulty? Did you want to take the car back?
She did not call me in January. When
did she call you?
She didn't call me. When we were there in December to pick up the children for Christmas, I had talked to her. And she said at that time that she thinks she was going to have to let the car go back because she was not able to make the payments.
So it was in December that she spoke to you?
Yes.
That she couldn't make the payments, she was going to have to let the car go back.
And she told me at that time, Judge, to do what I had to do. And I said, okay. Well, then I had called the bank, and they said, no, they hadn't repossessed it, that they had given her another extension. Well, then I had not talked to her since then. But I didn't even know when they picked the car up until it was like April or 1st of May when the bank come after me for the money.
So, how much did you pay the bank?
Okay, it was left with a loan of $9,200. And the bank came after me and told me they were going to sue me every 7 years until I paid for it. Well, they told me if I haven't paid in 48 hours, that they would knock 25% off on it. And so I didn't know what to do, but I went to my mother to ask her for a loan so I wouldn't have to pay back so much. So she gave me the loan for $7,300, which I sent them a check within 48 hours. And then they sent me...
You have a copy of that check?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please?
I also have a copy of the post office when I sent it.
I don't need that. I just need a copy of your check. Okay, finance company.
And then the bank sent me a statement after that advising me that the request has been sent to the appropriate credit bureaus and updating your file of reflection. Now,
okay. So why aren't you responsible? Why? Now, your defense.
I did not want Mrs. Riley to co-sign the car. That wasn't a choice for me. My ex-husband asked her to co-sign the car for us. And I just basically, when it came down to it, I asked her to take the car back. She told me that she had no use for the car. I did tell her
even
to
if
do what she needed to do.
Listen to me. She took the car back, she still would have been out the money. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So she didn't want to be out the money. Why isn't it you're trying to explain to me, Miss Lee, why it isn't your responsibility? You've had this car since the year 2000. You took it in the judgment of divorce. You accepted responsibility for it in the judgment of divorce. You drove it. You used it for 3 years. Explain to me why this loss should be hers instead of yours.
I tried to work it out with her. I told her that I was calling the finance company.
Yes.
To come and get the car. It wasn't with us. I returned the car.
Yes.
And she wanted nothing to do with me.
Yes.
She wanted nothing to do with it. I never heard another word from her after that.
That doesn't answer my question. Are you thick? I mean, are you thick?
No.
Then explain to me why it's not your responsibility. It's certainly not her responsibility. She says, you say to her, take the car back. I can't deal with it anymore. She says to you, I can't deal with it. I don't have the money to pay every month on this car. I have a car, or I don't need a car. This was your car. So I'm not dealing with the problem. This is your problem. This is your car. All I did was do a favor and co-sign so that you could get the car. But it's your car. You're saying to her, this is the problem, deal with it. But how old are you?
31.
You're not 12. So I'm waiting for you to explain to me why it's not your responsibility.
The car was shared by myself and my husband. I didn't want her name on the car.
Then you should have given your husband the car during the divorce proceedings.
I couldn't.
Listen to me very carefully. Then if you didn't want because I'm not going to get an answer from you. If you didn't want the responsibility of the car because you couldn't deal with it, then you give the car to your husband in the judgment of divorce, and then it becomes his responsibility. But you can't have two front ends of the dog. Do you understand? You can't have the car and no responsibility, which is what you seem to be suggesting to me. Put your hand down. Do you appear to be losing? No. Sorry. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
All right. Anything else you want to say to me?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount only that I can award you here, which is $5,000. Thank you.
911 operator Sharon Kennedy is suing her ex-boyfriend, Michael Estepellin, for the cost of a cruise and for making unauthorized charges on her credit card.
It's number 148 on the calendar in the matter of Kennedy versus Estepellin. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Ms. Kennedy, according to your complaint, you and the defendant were dating.
Yes.
And you claim that he owes you some money for a cruise that you took together and also for credit card charges that he made on your credit card.
Yes.
Mr. Estepellin says that you were just friends, that the cruise was your treat, and that it was very nice of you as a friend to allow him to charge things on your credit card, but there was never an agreement for him to pay you back. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
40 years old.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a race car official and a mechanic.
Are you married?
No longer.
You have children?
One.
Who does that child live with?
Her mother.
And who do you live with?
My father.
How long have you lived with your father?
6 months.
Do you pay him rent?
Yes.
How much rent do you pay him?
Not enough. About $100.
When did you meet Miss Kennedy?
When we were about 15 years old.
And did there come a time when you and Miss Kennedy started to have a relationship that was more than just friendly?
When we were 16.
More recently, sir, so that we can come into this millennium. You went on a cruise together.
Yes, we did.
And when was that cruise?
Early this year, January or February, I believe.
Had you been going out with her socially prior to that?
She had come to California from Arizona occasionally, and when she did, we would go out to dinner.
Just dinner?
Dinner and a movie.
Nothing more intimate than that?
No, ma'am.
When you went on the cruise, did you have one stateroom or two?
We had one.
Did you have one bed or two?
We had one.
And did you sleep on the floor or in the bed?
On the bed.
And what about Miss Kennedy?
On the bed.
How long was the cruise?
4 days.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding you going on the cruise.
We had been talking one time. She came to California out to dinner. She was talking about vacations, that she had been wanting to take a vacation since she had been recently divorced. The next thing I had found out about the cruise was when she emailed me that she had booked a cruise, and she picked the dates around my racing schedule when I had an off weekend. So she had already planned it, booked it, and sent me the information.
No. In December, when I picked Michael up from being in jail for 30 days, we had discussed...
What was he in jail for?
Because he failed to finish his anger management classes from a domestic violence issue on his wife.
That should have been your first clue.
I know. I know.
Go ahead.
So when he got out of jail, we went to the motel, and we discussed going on vacation. And I said, okay, I'll do some research on it. And when I met him again 2 weeks later when I went to California, I brought him all the information, and he agreed to pay half of the cruise. We booked the cruise for January 17th.
When was he supposed to pay for it?
After racing season started, which was the end of January.
And he never paid for it?
Correct.
When did you make him a card holder on your credit card?
After March, when we both told each other that we loved each other.
March?
Yes.
Some 2 months after he failed to pay you for the cruise?
Correct. But I had not asked him for the cruise money yet.
You just told me he was supposed to pay you for it when racing season started, which was a month later, and he didn't pay you.
Correct.
And if he didn't pay you, you should have had a clue that this wasn't somebody that you wanted to extend any further credit to.
Yes, ma'am.
So now I'm not interested in the cruise anymore.
Okay.
Now I'm interested in the credit card.
Okay. After Michael and I told each other that we loved each other on March 8th, he had been kicked out of his grandmother's house in February.
Why was he kicked out in February?
That I don't know the specifics. All I know is that she was very upset with him. It was some issue in the kitchen, that she had just cleaned the kitchen and he was not wanting to clean it up and got all over her, and it was not a pretty sight. So she told him he had to
finished that anger management course.
Correct. So then in March he started living at a motel, and he told me that for racing he would start traveling. So we agreed to put him as an authorized user on my American Express card. He would only use it for necessary items such as gas and lodging. And within a 1-month period, he had gone to Shoe City numerous times, Motherhood Maternity, and I sure as heck wasn't pregnant, Victoria's Secret. So he was obviously romancing another woman.
So what happened when you got the first bill?
When I found out, I went online and checked the amount that was being charged so far. And I called Michael on April 9th, and I asked him what happened. He told me that someone had broken into his motel room and stolen the numbers because he still had the card. So like a fool, I believed him. And I had American Express cancel out that first card, send him a second card. Same thing happened. Room was miraculously broken again, and more charges started happening. So by the time the third card got to him, American Express had suspended the account, and I wasn't even allowed to use it because the charges were up to $11,000. Michael told me, just dispute all the charges. And I told him, I can't dispute the charges if they're legitimate charges.
Well, she had told me that she was going to give me a card to help me on the road, and that's what I had used it for. And yes, I had charged it, and yes, I did go to Victoria's Secrets, because by that time I had met somebody else who I did like, and was planning
we were still having sex.
planning to have a future with. I had told her that the whole time that we were, friends, and that we were always just friends.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's get back to the credit card, sir. So what you're telling me is that when she questioned you about these charges, you told her that somebody had used the card in an unauthorized fashion initially.
No, ma'am. What I had said is that she
Look
told
at me.
Yes, she told me.
No, here.
I am here. She told me that there's numerous charges on him, and she says, well, how could there be that many charges? I said, I have no idea. Maybe the only way is if somebody got the numbers from my card. That'd be the only other way that could happen.
You're a dishonest man.
I don't believe so, ma'am.
You are a thoroughly and totally dishonest man. Because if you had said to Miss Kennedy the first time around, you got me. I charged things because I originally said I was just going to charge things on the road, which is what you told me.
Eventually.
I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
You said I'm going to charge things on the road, motel, meals, that sort of thing. And then you chose, because you met somebody else, to charge things on the credit card that she questioned. And you knew that if you said to her, I met somebody else, and yes, I did charge some things for that other person, she would have canceled the card. You chose not to do that. And after you got the second card, you did the same thing. You charged things for your new girlfriend. So when I say to you that you are a dishonest person, I know from whence I speak. You are a dishonest and dishonorable person.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a hustler.
And later today.
Sir, I wouldn't use her mural.
I did not use her mural.
Just a second. You did.
No, ma'am.
But, Ms. Diaz, don't bother me. I think you ought to find a different line of work, by the way.
Warren Kennedy says her ex-boyfriend, Michael Estepellin, made unauthorized charges on her credit card. Sharon claims Michael lied about the card getting stolen.
What were the costs that he put on your credit card?
The charges that I did not dispute in a 30-day period was $3,675.84.
Can I see those, please?
The highlight ones on the copy are the ones that we did not dispute. And I also have a copy.
You did not dispute them because he made them.
Correct. I have a copy of the cell phone bill that we also went on the family plan with.
Shh, I don't care about the cell phone. He's a hustler.
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She seems to think I'm a dishonest hustler. That's fine. That's her opinion.
Michael was in jail again in May, and I called his cell phone, and his girlfriend answered.
She finally got it through her head that we were going to be nothing but just friends.
I was totally shocked. I could not believe how much of a charmer he was and how good a liar he really was.
Now she's just she's a scorned woman who didn't get away.
The money is just secondary to what Michael and I had.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Diaz versus Altunia. Step forward, please.
Artist Mariana Diaz is suing former client, restaurant manager Robert Altunian, for the cost of a painted mural. Mariana says Robert never paid for her work.
Ms. Diaz, you claim that the defendant owes you for a mural that you painted for his restaurant. And Mr. Altunia says that he didn't like the result, so he's not paying for it.
Right.
When did you hire Ms. Diaz?
Exact date, I don't really remember.
Month.
Because maybe November or October.
When did he hire you?
On November 5th.
And what was your agreement with her, Mr. Altunia?
Actually, I was trying to find a mural person.
Listen to me.
Was my
I had a
agreement with her? $3,000.
Okay, you were going to pay her $3,000
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
mural. And how long did she work on the mural?
Almost 6 weeks.
And you didn't like the result?
Yes.
Do you have a photograph of the mural that you completed?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. How did you find her, by the way, Mr. Altunia?
I put the words around that I need a mural, and she knew one of my secretaries. It was a friend of hers or something, and when I asked her, she said, I'll do it.
And you agreed on a $3,000 price?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see what you've put in there in place of this, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I actually run it. I have a couple of samples that...
I don't want to see a sample.
No.
I want to see what you did over her work.
Here. And the top one, too. And the back. That's it.
This is what is over the mural that she painted.
Yes.
You sure?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Oh, I see what you did. You used part of her mural in the center, which is what you showed me. You used this part, and you had someone else paint pictures of women, dancers, around it.
Yes, ma'am, it's true.
Okay, good. Well, it's certainly, I will tell you, Miss Diaz, have you seen it? I'm going to show it to you. It certainly is lovely what he did. He added to your piece. Just show that to Miss Diaz. Okay.
I know the artist that did this. He's awesome guy.
Yes,
awesome.
he's wonderful. He used your center.
Right.
And then he painted beautiful women dancers around the back, and he is awesome.
It is awesome.
He is awesome. Let me have it back.
I met him while I was working on this because...
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
That as far as artists go, Miss Diaz...
He's amazing.
He's terrific. But Mr. Altunia, you see, this is your problem, sir.
Okay.
How long have you been in the restaurant business?
32 years.
Let's say Officer Byrd and I decide to take our families to your restaurant.
Sure.
We come together. How many are in your family?
6.
All together. You
All
know,
together,
children.
6. Yeah.
My basic family is 22. Children, their spouses, and grandchildren.
Sure.
So between the two of us now, we're 28 people. And we come to your restaurant. What kind of food do you serve, sir?
I have 8 kind of different restaurants that I represent.
This one?
I do not. This one is French restaurant. It's a cabaret, madame.
Good. So we come to your cabaret, and we eat, and we drink, and at the end of the meal, I say to him, you know what? I didn't like the food. I had better French food across the street.
All right.
So, Mr. Altunia, we're not paying the bill because we didn't like your food. We ate it. We used it. But it was better food across the street. Would your first phone call be to the police? and say these people are trying to scam me out of a $5,000 bill.
No,
they came, they ate my food, they drink my wine, and when I present them with a bill, they say, you know, we had better French food. What?
Before I forget, can I give you the answer?
Sure.
I would invite you again for free next meal.
Well, the next time, sir, that she paints a mural for you, maybe she'll do it for free. This time, you got to pay for it.
My personal knowledge is...
What?
Good.
Your Honor.
That's good.
Sir, I wouldn't use her mural. Listen to me.
I did not use her mural.
Just a second. You did.
No, ma'am.
You used her mural because
No,
I'm
ma'am.
looking at the...
Shh. All right.
I'm looking at the work that
All
your
right.
artist did, and your artist used right in the center a little piece of her work. Whether you chose to use her work or not, that's not what's relevant, sir. If you made Ms. Diaz, don't bother me. I think you ought to find a different line of work, by the way. But what I'm telling you is, she spent 6 weeks there. The fact that she is a person of marginal talent is not her fault. She really wanted to do a good job. This is the best job she could do. She didn't necessarily try to hurt you, and all during the work process, because I read the papers, you kept giving her money for supplies. Instead of looking at it and saying, listen, my 6-year-old grandchild could do this job.
I did the same thing, Your Honor.
Oh, just a second.
Okay,
Instead of doing that, you continued to give us supplies because she says, I could do better, I could do better. And I would have said, listen, let's stop right here. I see after 2 weeks this is not working out. I'm going to give you $1,000. I'm going to hire somebody else. But you, Mr. Altunia, said to her, fine. Here's the money. Go continue to work. Not the right thing to do, sir. You made a mistake.
Can I answer again, Your Honor?
Sure.
All right. When somebody starts, you know, she's a nice girl. When somebody starts, and a friend of my secretary too, she was very nice, and she's very kind. Believe me, she did her best. I seen her go from books to bookstores. I seen her bringing so many pictures. I seen her sleep there sometime. I was wrong by hiring for such cheap price and expecting the most.
Mr. Altunia.
Yeah.
That's where you're mistaken.
That's right. I think
that's your mistake.
Expensive.
You've been in business 33 years. You
that's
get
right.
what you
That's
pay
very
for.
true, Your Honor.
And the artist who ultimately did this, clearly, if they
Your Honor,
charge
please do me a favor. I gotta tell you this. I want to show it to you
I want to
what
also
she did.
express some things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go.
First of all, I mean, I'm not going to discuss art, and here is just my time that I put into that thing.
Does it sound as if you're not going to win this case?
No, and also, I mean, just defending a little bit my art. This thing we agreed before I started that I was going to do over the stage, because that was the stage.
Your Honor, excuse me.
And I did it in God leave. So
Miss
I mean, I
Diaz,
don't-
Miss Diaz, listen
right.
to me, sweetheart.
Right.
He's got to pay you the $3,000. Put it down. He's got to pay you the $3,000 because that was your
Your Honor,
agreement.
one more second, please.
Yes.
I told her to put a Moulin Rouge.
Yeah,
Moulin Rouge is a very
it's a
famous
windmill.
restaurant. Moulin Rouge is a beautiful place in Paris. I made better over here. I had a lot of money available to give anything she wanted. I have $1 million location.
Listen to me.
I have now picture. I told her to make one Moulin, the windmill. That's how she finished it. And I had to work in the top of Moulin Rouge.
No.
Please look at it.
I did the Moulin
Look what
since
she
the
did.
beginning. It was
Yeah, I wanted the Moulin.
amazing. It's amazing. And
You're going to win
okay.
anyway. Please don't. You won already. What are you fighting for?
Mr. Altunia, what I'm telling you is you're a businessman. You've been a businessman for 33 years, according to you, in the restaurant business. You made an agreement with her. Your agreement was she's going to paint, do the best job she could for $3,000.
Right.
The fact that you thought you were getting something for nothing,
That's right.
that's your problem. See,
I
then
guess
you had
it
to
was.
hire somebody to come in and finish the job. And I want to tell you something. The person that you hired is a person that has a tremendous amount of talent. But that's your problem.
It's
She
true.
worked for 6 weeks. You got to pay her. Judge for the plaintiff.
Your
The
Honor.
amount of
Hold on, wait,
$3,000.
wait,
Thank
don't
you.
give nothing.
Goodbye.
Parties are
Bye.
excused. You
Luck.
may step out.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is case number 108 on the calendar in the matter of Hayes versus Cheney. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
How old are you, Miss Hayes?
I'm 24.
How many children do you have?
Just one.
What do you do for a living?
I bartend.
Do you have any other source of income other than from your bartending?
No.
ever receive any supplements from the state?
Right now I get medical for my child, and I do receive food assistance too.
Your complaint is that a little over a year ago, you made an arrangement with Mr. Cheney, who is the father of your daughter, that in lieu of child support, he would furnish you with a car.
Right.
The car would remain in his name until it was paid off, and he would pay $200 a month towards the car instead of giving you money for child support.
Correct.
And that was just fine for a year, and then car was taken from the front of your house. You thought it was Mr. Cheney who took that car. You reported it stolen to the police. The car was subsequently found. Mr. Cheney decided, I don't want this aggravation. I'd rather give her the child support. So he turned the car in. According to him, he's now sending you $200 a month in child support. So he doesn't want to be bothered with the car business anymore. And you want the value of the car, and you say that you put in a substantial amount of money into the car.
Correct.
Things like rims.
Actually, the rims and tires on the car, were not on it when it was stolen, so that wouldn't be part of it. But the stereo system and other
window
things
tints
on the car. Yeah.
Why did you need window tints on the car?
Because it was a nice new car, and I had it, and with my income tax return, I put some money into my car.
You're a single mother raising a child on tips and wages from being a bartender. And are you telling me that you took that money, and instead of putting it in a college fund for your daughter, you tinted the windows on your car and
I
you
sure
upgraded
did.
the stereo? You sure did. Your priorities are a little screwed up.
At that time, I wasn't receiving any assistance, and I was doing just fine.
I don't care whether you were receiving any assistance or not. How much money do you have put away for your daughter for college?
None.
And when you receive Medicaid and when you receive food stamps, you're receiving welfare. And before I would put money into tinting my windows in my car, I would put money towards my child's future. That's what a grown-up does. I just want to mention that, madam, because I was actually appalled at that piece of your complaint when you say you want that money back from him because he repossessed the car and sold it after you had put in this window tints and stereo system and fancy rims on the car. And so he owes you $4,000. Now, Mr. Cheney.
Yes.
Why did you take the car back?
I didn't take the car back. It was reported stolen. I found it 2 blocks from her house, sitting in an apartment complex, which I did some checking around and I got proof that the car was there and that she's been in and out of those apartment complexes many times while it was there. It was given back to me by a police officer.
Because the car was in your name?
The car was in my name. I took it back to the car lot because I didn't want no problems. She's trying to put me in jail all the time. I didn't want no problems with it.
Fine. You used the car for a year?
I did. If I wanted to put him in jail, Your Honor, he would be in prison right now.
You used the car for a year?
I did.
How much do you think that it would cost if you leased a car for a year?
I have no idea.
How much is he paying you now in child support?
He has paid me $200 for the last 2 months. But I'm currently
Who is this
filing.
person?
This is my girlfriend.
Tell her to keep her mouth shut. Because you two have a child together, and she's not supposed to exacerbate any bad feeling that may exist between the two of you.
She's been the communicator between the both
Which
of us.
is making it worse.
In court, she has nothing to say, and she should have as little to say as possible, because that's not going to be a good thing. You two have to learn how to get along together, because you made a child together.
There is a 2-year restraining order. I had no permission whatsoever to talk to this female for 2 years. She is the communicator by court.
He was talking to me up until I don't know what happened, and she decided that she didn't want that anymore, and now she's been the communicator, and she makes things up between the two of us and causes more
Very
problems.
bad. That's very unfortunate. Who got a restraining order against whom?
The state actually pressed it for a no-contact order because of a domestic violence that we had.
Who supervises visitation?
No one supervises visitation. She was picking up for a while our daughter and bringing him to him for the weekend, and then we would meet and I'd pick her up.
Oh,
he stopped seeing her about 8 months ago, though.
No, I didn't stop seeing her.
Or not 8 months ago.
She quit letting me see her. She said, you're not seeing your child again until we're done with court. This court right here today. First it was, you better start paying me payments, pay her payments. Nope, you can't have her. Now we're going to court. Oh, no, not till court's over. So I'm paying. I haven't even seen my child in like 4 months.
Do you have an order of visitation?
I don't think so.
Well, go and get one. If you don't have an order of visitation, then you see your child whenever she says you can. If you have an order of visitation, sir, that's fixed by a court, you will see your child whenever the court tells you you can see your child. Do you understand the difference?
Yes, I do.
Well, then you got to get off your duff and go into court and file for an order of visitation.
Well, I was trying to do it out of court.
Well, that's stupid.
Your Honor, I've never told him he couldn't see his daughter.
Just a second. That's stupid.
That's stupid.
You pick yourself up and you go to the local domestic relations court or the family court, wherever you live, and you file a petition to see your child, whatever. And she just says, I told him he could see her whenever.
She don't
Listen
bring her,
to me.
then I can't see her.
Listen to me. That's not up to her. Go. If somebody told me I couldn't see my child, I wouldn't wait 4 months to go to court. She knew how to go to court to get an order of support, right?
Right.
You do have an order of support.
Yes, we do.
$200.
That's not court ordered.
It's not court ordered.
That's not. I'm in the process right now of getting back into the court ordered amount, which is $280 a month.
It's ordered that I pay $280 a month already. We had a verbal agreement outside of it to pay $200 a month. So
No, to pay
For the car.
to pay for the car.
Now I'm in the process of getting the $280 a month again.
Very good. So you'll get your $280 a month. Good. I don't know what you want.
What I want basically is I put all this money into this car.
That was stupid.
It was a bad decision.
Stupid.
Bad
Who told
decision.
you? Who told you? Listen to me. Who told you to tint the wheels, buy rims, buy a stereo, tint the whatever? Did I say tint the rims?
You said tint the wheels, but
tint the wheels. Whatever you do, madam, that's your prerogative. I can really understand why he doesn't want to have anything to do with you other than paying child support and picking up the child because clearly you don't like each other. You don't get that money back.
Have you seen the contract?
What? I don't care. Listen to me.
He agrees in the contract to pay me the money that he owes me when, if the contract was ever broken, that I had into the car. He agreed to that. So
she willingly gave up the car by reporting it stolen. Pretty much
I had to report it stolen. It was stolen from my
Pretty
house.
much set me up
If I wanted to
because
send him to prison, he tried to kill
I
me.
have
I have police
witnesses
reports. I could have
saying that she was.
Then I have a question for you, Miss Hayes, because it always strikes me that women can be so foolish. If he tried to kill you, and if you are afraid of him.
I'm not afraid of him.
Well, I would be afraid of somebody who tried to kill me, Miss Hayes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's your daughter's money.
Okay, well, my daughter needs me to feed her and put her through.
Right.
Right, so I have to get to and from school or work, right?
Right.
Okay, so...
But in a car that doesn't have tinted windows.
And later today,
February, she decided that she was going to have some plastic surgery done. Had a cabaret party, spent over $2,000 to have this party, and I still didn't get my money.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diana Hayes says the father of her child, Jason Cheney, owes for illegally repossessing her car. Diana says Jason's actions are hurting their daughter.
Miss Hayes, I would be afraid of anybody who tried to kill me, especially someone with whom I had a relationship. I don't need you for anything. Okay. I certainly wouldn't put myself in a position where I had any kind of business relationship with them. Listen to me, any kind of business relationship with them. There has to be a reason for that. Now, one of the reasons for that might be, you see, if he's giving you $280 a month, you could purchase your own car. However, if he's giving you $280 a month, the other assistance that you might be getting from the state, including the Medicaid and the food stamps, would be taken away. So, right?
Yes,
Yes,
no problem
sure.
with that.
So listen to me. So this way, you got the Medicaid, you got the food stamps, and you got your car. So if you think about it...
That was reported. That was part of my income. His $200 a month toward my car was part of my income. Reported. It still wasn't enough. So
interesting. So then I don't understand why somebody who was so fearful of somebody's bad temper...
He wasn't even making the payments.
Listen to me. I don't understand why someone who was so fearful of somebody's bad temper would enter into any kind of business relationship.
I was
without
already
anything... What?
I was already into it before then. I was already into this. I was already into this agreement. This was already going on before.
Then say, here's your car back.
I was
don't
already
want
into
it.
this
Listen
car
to
this
me.
much money.
Here's your car back. I don't want your car. I want you to pay me $280 a month. You pay it through the court. You come and visit every other week or every week, just as the court is going to tell you to do. And that's what we do. You don't have a convoluted business arrangement. In any event, I don't see where he owes you $4,000, Miss Hayes.
To rent a car.
What?
I no longer have use of a car that I put $4,000 into. I no longer have use of this car. Do you pay $4,000 to rent a car? No, you paid $4,000 to buy a car, not rent a car. Am I wrong?
She got her use out of the
Listen
car.
to me.
I used the car for a little over a year. It was a good car. I would have drove it for 5 more years. I bought that car.
He doesn't want any part of you, and you don't want any part of him. Now take the money that he's giving you and go and put it towards a car, which is exactly what you did before.
She already did.
I am doing now.
Perfect. Did you buy a car?
I'm paying.
You're paying it off, which is exactly what you were doing before. You were paying it off with his money.
No, my money. My child support money.
No.
My money.
No, that's not your money. That's your daughter's money.
Okay, well, my daughter needs me to feed her and put her through.
Right.
Right, so I have to get to and from school or work, right?
Right.
Okay, so...
But in a car that doesn't have tinted windows. Goodbye, Miss Hayes.
Parties are excused when they step out.
He tried to kill me. I have police reports.
We got into domestic violence and we pushed each other around. That's about it.
He threatened me in the police report that if I said anything, then he would take my car away.
She reported stolen, tried to get me in trouble. It backfired in her face.
She keeps trying to get him in trouble. She can't handle the fact that they're no longer together.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Anderson versus Miller. Step forward.
Lori Anderson is suing her former co-worker, Tynesha Miller, for unpaid loans to pay her rent and bills. Lori says instead of paying her back, Tynesha had plastic surgery.
Miss Anderson, Miss Miller was a former friend of yours.
Yes.
And a co-worker.
Yes.
And it is your claim that you made 2 loans to her?
Yes.
And she hasn't paid you back. And Miss Miller says you were a real nice gal, real good-natured person, and you made gifts to her at a time when she needed money. That's her defense. Is that right?
Yes.
How long, Miss Miller, had you been friendly with Miss Anderson?
Probably 2 weeks after she started working.
And when was that?
December, January, I'm not exactly sure.
December of '03.
And what kind of business are you in?
I worked at a surgery center. I did the scheduling there.
And you?
I'm the surgery triage coordinator.
And when was the first loan that you made, Miss Anderson?
It was on April 14th, 2004.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding that loan, Miss Miller. Or that money that she gave you.
Okay. I was on the phone, and she overheard the conversation, and it was...
Well, what was the conversation about?
My conversation was about my gas had got turned off, and she overheard the conversation.
Why was your gas turned off? For non-payment of your bill?
Yes.
How much do you make a year?
I believe it's like $33,000.
So what were you spending your money on?
My children and paying my bills.
How many children do you have?
4.
Who else lives in your home?
Just the children and myself.
Where's their father?
I guess he's around.
Does he pay you support?
We only get a check, maybe.
रहना बड़ी बात है मोबाइल वध है बीच मोबाइल मेरे ख्याल में तो पिछले महीने पवा गया ना हाँ हाँ भाई हूँ ना शोर शराबा ख़त्म थी वैसे शोर शराबा इंदा ख़त्म थी वैसे सही देखें सही वाला रोला ना एंड पे ये बुढ़े दी जिंदगी गुजर के रेडी दिखा लाए थे है ना वही सारे दुकान अलग किराए थे कैसे हैं इंदे सारे दुकान किराए ते लगे ये मार्केट है क्यों ये गली कितना किराया ये हाले तो उते दूजी बिल्डिंग बनावा तो चकना चाहिए में नहीं वाला हाँ हाँ वो देखा जाने दुकान अंदर बैठा खड़े से नवा पहले तो गाहकी बढ़ाने टाइम लगती मैं नहीं ई वैसे काम सही कितना लेकिन बाओ इतना करोड़ है ना ई में नहीं हाँ वो जिसे जगह होती ना वो चल वंजे ना दुकान में नहीं हाँ और एक जिम्मे वो प्लाजा बना खड़ा है था मोटरसाइकिल वाली मार्केट को वो मैं खाली खड़ा थी नहीं नहीं प्लाजा की गाल करें ना भैया प्लाजा नीला प्लाजा नहीं खड़ा थे उनकी गाल करें ना हाँ
वो किसकी है यार बंदा अपने अपने तक कितनी बैठे थोड़ी देर आए
लग नहीं के हैं हैं किस चीज दी नहीं नहीं जेड़े 20 मिनट आ गए ना 20 मिनट लग गए
कौन दे रहे थे जेरी मैंने काम पाएगी
मुंह से न मारे
लाल कलर